Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspiring people like our new friend, Dr. Joy, to help you find the resources, tools, and tips and everything you might need to be your best inspired self. How are you doing today, Dr. Joy?
I'm fine. I appreciate you allowing me to be your guest really today and talk about the work that I've been doing for quite a number of years now, and hope that it will inspire the people who really enjoy your show.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking time out. I'm positive you're busy, so any opportunity we have of your time, I'll be gracious with it. Would you mind introducing yourself a little bit, Dr. Joy, and let people know like a little bit about the work that you are doing?
Yes, my full name is Dr. Joye Jeffries Pugh, and I live in Douglas, Georgia, and I have my doctorate in administration and supervision in the field of education. And for years, I've been writing a number of books. And the books that I have written are Antichrist, the cloned image of Jesus Christ, Eden, the knowledge of good and evil 666, which is volume 1 and 2, and Beguile Eden to Armageddon, volumes 1, 2, and 3, Parables of Joy on a Georgia Farm. And I'm just finishing a book called Special Parables of Joy about triumphs of the disabled. So my work has encompassed a lot of different things. I enjoy studying and researching biblical history and biblical futures as far as prophecies and things of that nature. And so eschatology has been a very important part of my life since I was a little girl. And so the work that I typically do involves a lot of everything is really nonfiction in the work that I write. So it's the hope that I have in the work that I do that when you read my books, that you are inspired by them to try to find your reason for being a part of this world. So many times we feel like we are just dust in the wind and that we're just floating around in the ocean, kind of in this universe. But what my work really has shown is that you're not, and that you have a purpose and a reason for being, as far as an existence with what I believe is God the Father and the Creator who made us and has a connection to us. And so my work is tried to be easy enough for just the average 12-year-old to read, all the way up to a PhD, because I bring a lot of science and things into the work that I do. I mean, the things that I touch on a lots of times in my work include like ancient history and archaeology, astronomy, physics, biblical prophecy. I do things about demonology and explain the human pineal gland and how nanotechnology and cloning have been a very important part of our life right now, along with vaccinations and of course the hot viruses like we're seeing right now that's changing our lives, and that's the COVID-19. And then I also touch on things about strange weather patterns, things about electromagnetic anomalies. I'm very interested in the world's religions, theology, politics, and most importantly, the Holy Shroud of Turin. So my work really does encompass a lot of things. And then, of course, my Parables of Joy series on a Georgia farm is about me growing up and really the inspiration of things that happened to me in my life that changed my life. That I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're growing up, there are certain little perfect little nuggets, little golden nuggets that happen to you in your life that really make you able to use them as stepping stones instead of using them as stumbling blocks. And so when I wrote that book, I wanted people to see that when you read my work, you come to understand what put me on the path to do what I do. And what were the things that happened in my life that set me up to see how important it is that we are here for a specific purpose, regardless of who we are. The talents and the things that we have happen in our lives really are things that we can utilize to help other people to take steps and directions to improve the world around us and that kind of thing as well. And so the book that I'm going to be having that will come out probably in the next month and a half about the triumphs of the disabled is showing you that even if you have a disability, or even if you have any type of disability, where it be physically, mentally, or if you're just developmentally in a situation that's not well and not good, that there are certain things within you that can allow you to fly a little higher than you normally thought you would if you only believe. So my work, like I say, is very encompassing, and it includes a lot of different disciplines, but I just try to make it easy enough. Just like you and I are talking, I write like I really talk. And so when you read my work, it's almost like we're sitting at a table and we're either having dinner and I'm discussing a particular aspect of the research that I've done, and I bring it down to your level so that when you watch TV or you watch current events or you feel that you're not having things happen in your life appropriately, that you can go to my work and really find where you are, why you're there, and what the options are for a different change or a different future that you might particularly want to try to look at as getting out of a situation or trying to make a better situation, or even being blessed when you don't even realize that you're blessed. And many times I think things happen to us and we see the negative side of it, and we don't really understand that there's positive behind everything that's occurring. So my work is to try to help you see that as well. And then, looking around us, we see such terrible things happen in our world that's never happened before. Then the work that I do as far as theology, eschatology, end times, that kind of thing, it allows you to see that this has been set up, that there is hope in this. There needs to be faith and understanding, but at least you can get an understanding as to what is happening, why it's happening, and where you can kind of choose how you want to be a part of this and how it affects you. If you don't have hope, so many times without hope, we find ourselves just kind of falling flat on our face. And I think that all of my work gives you the hope of a future and a better thing, a thing toward paradise, a thing back to what the Creator who created us wanted us to be. So it's all encompassing, and I've been doing this a very, very long time. I was thinking that many times I talk about that I've had over 40 years of research in some of this area, but I'm getting on up there in age, so I'm going to have to start saying a little over 50 years. I'm going to start telling my age a little bit more because the research has been going on so long.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think I think sometimes we're all brought together for whatever reason makes sense. But I'm particularly interested in sort of the disability angle that you mentioned, because while you may or may not know, I'm a mother of 4, and one of my children have an autism diagnosis. And in the current times, there really is a lot being talked about in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So very timely, in fact, to be releasing, that type of book right in the middle of, we have COVID, and that's one crisis, but I think that sort of this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion is the other side of that coin, and the other opportunity, because I also like to frame things positively, the other opportunity we have for maybe choosing some different paths as we move forward.
Yes. Now, I mean, I really do understand how hard it is, especially parents who have handicapped children, and how society has really not given you the tools sometimes that you need, and then also not given the child the opportunity to proceed through different levels that they could do. And most times when I encountered, especially in the 80s, back in the 80s, 1980s was a very difficult time, because that's when the first times of, mainstreaming and trying to get people into the school systems, when there was Public Law 94-142 and all the stuff that was involved with that. It was a very, very difficult time. And so, I remember having to take handicapped people into like bathrooms, and you couldn't even get a wheelchair into a bathroom, or be able to find a parking place where you could get them off the bus and into a particular area. So it's been a real fight. And I think sometimes when people talk about the discrimination that's happened in this world, and they talk about different races, I don't think there's ever been more discrimination ever against any group of people than really handicapped people, because they have been very limited to what they could do. And my heart does go out to you, especially during this time of COVID-19, where you've got school systems that are so scared about how are we going to get back into being able to help certain people. And I know that when I worked for all those years with handicapped people, just trying to keep somebody to keep a mask on, or to be socially distancing, to understand or comprehend that level of need as far as a medical problem with the world. So it's going to be a really tough time, really, over the next numbers of years, to be able to handle what we thought we had kind of gotten maybe a handle on by inclusion, now may in fact be more discriminatory, because how do we handle those things and situations? So it's one of those things that I feel like that like you said, the work that I've done in the past and how I've seen how difficult it is, that the future is going to be that you've got to build on the platforms of what we've already established for being able to deal with people who do have disabilities, and be able to come up with new ideas. Because everybody, I mean, even the school system with just normal children, they're going to have to go through a whole different plan of what's been normal. It's not, I will always believe it's never going to be normal like what we once knew, like before Christmas of this past year. I think everything is going to be a different process. And so I hope that the work that I've done and the book that will be coming out will be an inspiration for people to see that there is this level of capability within all of us, regardless of our handicaps, that we can contribute to society, that there's a reason for us being here and not be placed on the sidelines of life. So I hope that, that book will be a timely book when it is released by my publisher.
I hope so too. I recently heard, and I'd be really wonderfully interested in your perspective, but I heard that, and I'm a person of faith as well. So the perspective that if we believe that we are all created in the image of God, or if we are all divine beings, then that means we all have a purpose. We all have a place here, and there's nothing there's like not a comma after that says, as long as you're able-bodied and able-minded and able this, then you're white and you're male and you're there's no comma after you're a divine person. What is your perspective in terms of that? And you have a theology background, so obviously you might even have some more to add to that.
Well, I think the most interesting thing of my research that I really discovered in the research that I've done in the books that I've written is that I've combined science and religion together to really prove that what the Bible has told us all the time, really, we can prove it scientifically. And so therefore it kind of locks you into having where people would say, well, oh, that's just religion. Now you have to look at it that it's also science and religion, and they're absolutely in agreement with one another. The most interesting thing is that with our DNA, each one of us has a unique DNA. And our DNA literally has a vibratory pattern that makes it very unique to only us, meaning that we are all singing. We all have we have a song. I have a song, you have a song, your children have different songs, much like the snowflakes that are never the same. I mean, there's never been a snowflake that's ever been the same. They're all geometrically different. And so when I realized about the DNA and the fact that it was singing, and I could see that our creator who created all of this literally is like a huge conductor over an orchestra. And if something is not quite right or out of line, then of course we know if some drum is not tuned right, or some guitar is not tuned right, or the violin breaks a string, that a good conductor immediately knows that the third violinist over there has got a string that they can no longer play, let's say, an E on. So therefore, they're going to have to hold off every time there's an E played, because it's going to mess up the sound. So that tells me that because of that, and because the Creator has this capability, that He knows each one of us personally. And Scripture tells us that. But science has now proven that we all are connected through a type of music, which is, it was always been that music is a universal language. And I've explained that in my books many, many times, that our bodies are vibrating, and the earth's vibrating. Even the sun and the planets have their own tunes. So it's important, I think, that once you realize that we're just not here, and so many times we've been taught, we're just here, when it's over with, you just die and go in the ground, and it's just nothing else happens. With me being able to do the research that I've done, it's very obvious that we don't just die. In fact, through the law of thermodynamics, when we die, we just change. In other words, our spirit and our soul still exist. And the work that I've done as far as near-death experiences and afterlife experiences, where people have stepped out of their bodies, could look at their bodies, their mind was still there. They could look at the body if it was deceased or dying, and know that that was really the shell that they were living in. But at the same time, they still look the same. They still know the same things and whatever. So that is important. I think when you look at a handicapped child, there is a reason that everybody that is born is here. and that the Creator has a connection to that individual for a major purpose. And I think that the fact that it's not just lights out at death, and that you have a choice to make a decision about how you want to live in this world, whether you want to follow the great manual that we know that is really the Bible that the Creator created and gave us to follow, that if we follow the principles and the scriptures, that we really will end up back into a paradise that was created for us in the beginning. And I know many times in my life, in working with handicapped children and handicapped adults, that they had such a childlike understanding of God that it was amazing to me and very inspiring. Because so many times as adults, we want to look at the negative and we never see the positive that's all around us. That was one of the things that many times for the 13 years that I worked with handicapped, people that were mentally and physically handicapped, and some of them had, dual diagnoses as far as mental health problems as well, that when I went to work, I felt a presence and a good presence that was there. And many people would say, I just don't know how you do that work. And I'm like, these are some of the most happy people that you ever want to be around. And if I had their childlike faith, how much better my life would be as well. But I think that when you do this and when you've had these opportunities to see the insights of people who don't fall into the bell curve of normal, they're on the outside of the bell curve. If you really take time to pay attention, you learn so much about yourself. And that was one of the things in this new book that will be coming out. I'm not only talking about them, but I'm talking about stories that changed my life as a so-called, average, normal person. And so looking at the science behind it, I mean, I think about even in history, some of the work that I did, like, for example, the Mayans, if they had a handicapped person, which meant that they were totally different than the rest of the tribe, they made them into like godlike. In other words, they were unique instead of making them feel like they were not a part or damaged goods or whatever. They did not make them feel like there was no place for them in their society. In fact, they lifted them up and made them something very special because they were special. It would be like today, if I went out and I collect rocks, and I found a meteorite compared to just really normal rocks, what that meteorite, because it's unusual and different, would actually mean to me. They saw that as a unique thing instead of a thing of something being odd and different. So it is my hope that when people really come to understand and read my work, that they see these little unique things in their own lives, and it connects them to the bigger picture, because we are all the children of God. And one of the things that he encouraged us to do in the Great Commission was that we were to be concerned about our brother and to tell everyone the good news and the hope of a future if we will just come together and do really what he has asked us to do, which is not hard. If we live by the principles that he gave us, right now our world would not be in the mess that it's in, and people would really be doing things to help each other instead of trying to make lives miserable. We hear all about, this life matters or that lives matter. I truly believe in God's eyes, all lives matter, because he created us. We are his children. He is not a respecter of persons. He tells us that. It doesn't matter whether you have an IQ of, 2, or you have an IQ that's over a genius. In God's eyes, you are equal. And that's what he hopes that we see and learn from him. And I think through all the work that I've done into all kinds of aspects of disciplines of science and religion and paranormal activity and everything, you come back with the understanding, once you see the bigger picture, that we are really in a very special situation, and we have something that created us that really does truly love us and was willing to send his son to die upon the cross of Calvary and cover us with his blood, regardless of race, handicap, creed, whatever. It was for our purpose. And so that is the thing I think that we must come to understand. And the fact that we don't just come and live and then just die and we're buried in the ground, but the fact that our spirit and our soul continues to live. And that asset that's within us, that is our greatest asset. Our soul and our spirit is really the only thing that you can take from this particular realm of physical reality into a spiritual realm and then back to a physical realm in the future, because we know that one day we will be rejoined with our body, just like Jesus was when he resurrected, and he resurrected his body into an immortal type of being. So I think it's important that we focus on what's inward and not so much what's outward. We can't focus on, well, just because somebody can't see or somebody can't speak or somebody can't walk well. We don't need to be focusing on the outside of a person. My mother was one that taught me at a very young age, do not ever judge a book by its cover. And so my research really is about that. It all matters as to who we choose, how we live our lives, what this inward person, this inward soul, this inward thing that is so valuable to us, how we choose to live so that that being that's part of us, that spirit, that soul, that it lives forever in a wonderful, beautiful, perfect place where no one will be blind, where no one will be maimed, where no one will not be able to speak, that everyone will be able to do all these things that maybe in life we were giving this to change other people's lives. And I will honestly say, my life has been changed many, many, many times by the handicapped people that I have dealt with throughout my lifetime.
Wow, that was beautiful. It was so what so I know we're running a little ending up on time, but how were you called to do this kind of work? I mean, you said nearly 5 decades at this point researching and writing and sharing the story. What what brought you here? Like, how did you begin this journey of enlightenment for others?
Well, I think that I had a little dream when I was 6 years old about the end of days, and I felt like I was going to see the end of time, and I wanted to really understand how that would play out in my life. And so it made me focus on maybe things that young children did not focus on. A path, an understanding that there was going to be something that was really real, that was going to happen, and it would happen in a generation that I felt that I was going to live in. And so I dug deep into the scriptures. And so, in trying to find answers to a lot of the questions, you know, when you read biblical scripture, you can't help but reading the Psalms and reading the Proverbs. And you start understanding that God wants everybody to love one another and that you should love your fellow man. And I was blessed to have been born and raised in a family that went to church, you know, and that you were taught at an early age that you love people, that you love them not for what they can give you, but that you love them for who they, you know, who they are in their own skin. Uh, it's not about what you can take from somebody, but how you two together can do something greater. And, you know, many times scripture tells us when two or more are gathered in my name, I'm in your midst, and then whatever you ask, it shall be given. So I learned to give and take. I was very athletic, so I played on a lot of sports teams. And if you play sports, you understand real quickly that it takes team effort to make things happen. So having a family, growing up on a South Georgia farm, everybody working at an early age. I mean, I was picking cotton at age 6 years of age, and being out in the fields with, you know, people who were of different color and different levels of intelligence, and of course being able to be around people who were actually handicapped, that when I was a little girl that I knew and played with as friends, you know, it really kind of set the stage for me to see the bigger picture. And of course, thinking that we were headed for a time when it was going to be very difficult, it made me start looking for all the golden nuggets in my life to share with other people, so that if they were feeling down or depressed, or, you know, I encountered a lot of sickness when I was a child. And so I understood what it was like to be a little bit different and to be a little bit out out on the left side or the right side of situations. Sometimes when you're riding in the boat with everybody else, you don't really understand what it's like to be treading water on outside of that boat. And so because I had to do that a couple of times in my life, I think it made me to a little bit more receptive to people's situations. And so now God gave me those opportunities. And like I say, I talk about them as stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks, because now anywhere in the world that people will contact me, and I talk to people all over the world and have done so many case studies, you can tell me about probably about anything. And I'm going to really have some little bit of knowledge about it. And I'm not going to laugh at you about it, but I'm going to try to understand and try to help you. And so that's what my work is all about, is trying to make you see the importance that you are, that you're here for a reason, you have a purpose, and that God has given us this opportunity of life. And regardless of how it is, whether you're wealthy or whether you're poor, everyone has their really cross to bear in a fallen world. And that's what we're living in. But if we can see those stepping stones to our eternity, then we encounter what we have to encounter with a positive joy in our hearts. And sometimes if you really go back and look at Paul and some of the things that even Peter and he had to deal with as far as being imprisoned, that they still found the ability to sing, to be happy in these bad circumstances. And so faith is a great thing that sometimes we don't really realize in just our belief, how we can change a lot of things around us. And I talk about that because in my research, I found that the more you think in a positive manner, the more your body actually vibrates, and it helps heal your body. It helps you get through situations. And there's no doubt in my mind that the communion that you have through that with the Creator is just an amazing thing that we take granted, or either we don't know about. And so that's why I really wanted to really give people the information, to let them see that, we do have a good shepherd, and that he's aware of his flock and of his sheep, and that he is trying to steer us in the right directions if we will just listen, if we will just heed his calling, and then to help our fellow man when they step out of line, to be there to lift them up and to try to get them back on the path. I mean, all those things became very, very important to me throughout my life. And it's very important to me in the work that I do. I'm not out to want to sell a book. The intent is to try to help somebody learn about who they are and why they're here, and why it's important to know and make good choices, so that one day when you do pass from this particular life, that you do pass into a life that is absolutely amazingly wonderful, according to all the case studies that I've done with people who have had near-death experiences. Heaven is absolutely the place you want to end up with your soul.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Joy. Now I know why your name is Dr. Joy. You're bringing joy to the world.
Well, I'll tell this real quick.
Yes.
My father absolutely dreamed my name before I was born. And of course, that was many, many years ago, because I'm 63 years of age. That was before they knew if they were having a girl or a boy. My father dreamed about me, what I would look like, and that my name was to be Joy. And it was supposed to be spelled unique, Joye. And so when I was born, I looked like he had told my parents and my grandparents that I would look, that I was absolutely a girl. And he named me as he had been instructed in that dream. He did not give me a middle name. So I used my maiden name, Joye Jeffries Pugh, and Pugh was my married name. But I used Jeffries as my middle name because I do not have a middle name. He was not given a middle name for me. And so it is a unique thing. And my mother used to always tell me that, to always spread joy, that you are joy. And she would tell me that over and over again. And of course, when she shared with me finally, years later, because she didn't want me to feel special and unusual because Dad had dreamed about all of that, she just said, I feel like you're old enough now to understand what it is and what your purpose is. And it was that I was to really be uniquely Joy, Joye, but at the same time to bring joy to people. And so I'm thrilled that God has given me this path. And it's not been an easy path, a very difficult path, but he's given me a path to really be able to do shows like your show and hopefully touch the ears of people who will listen and understand that even though we're living in bad times right now, that joy can still live within you. And it's something that you can take right on with you and one day rejoice when you get into heaven and be with the Creator who loves you better than anything in this entire world. It's just amazing what I have uncovered in the research that I've done that tells you that everything is very, very real, that every part of the Bible is real, and that everything it tells us in history that's happened has happened, and everything it tells us about the future is going to happen. And it can kind of give you that comfort in all situations, and I hope I can do that always for people.
Oh, you've got some fun music going on in the background there.
Well, it's really, really important to me to for people to know all about these things, and like I say, to really be able to, if they pick up my work, and like I say, to be able to find that inspiration that they have always needed, and that's important to me that they find that inspiration.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I had a real quick before we wrap up. When I was 6 years old, long story very short, my dad backhanded me and I hit my head on a wall really very hard. And I actually had a vision of a charcoal.
Did I lose you?
Are you there?
Hello?
Hello.
I don't know. For some reason, Jack, I dropped. I don't know. I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can now.
Oh, that's weird. Well, I'm not sure if I'll have a chance for the story to come through, but if it doesn't, I'll edit it. But when I was 6, my dad accidentally smacked me really hard, and I hit a wall, and I hit my head on the wall. And I thought at that point I would die, and I was like almost glad if I did, because it was a really rough already at 6. And I had the image of Jesus, and he said, "Get up, you're not done yet." And so I think that every time I lose hope or lose faith, that I remember that I've been told my whole life that I wasn't done yet, so I had to keep getting back up. So that's what it reminds
Well,
me.
yes, and the dream that I had of him at an early age, he told me, "Do not fear, I'm with you always." And so it's been through all the things I've gone through, and sometimes I would be so afraid. I mean, so afraid. I've had to deal with some things that I've been so afraid of. But, I've always known that he told me that he was always there. He's always going to be with me. So even to the end. So it does. It inspires you. And I think a lot of times people don't talk about these things because they think, oh, this is crazy, and somebody had a crazy dream. I've heard all these kinds of stories of people that would talk to me and they'd say, but I always thought somebody would laugh at me or think I was making it up, and they would think I was crazy, or, I need to be taken off in the paddy wagon. I'm one of those people you can talk to and I'm like, oh, what else did you hear? And what did it look like? And I'm really interested in it because I know that that's how our Creator has continued to talk to his people. And in the end of days, it says that there's going to be even more people who dream dreams and have visions. And so I'm seeing that happen with a lot of people that are sharing with me some of the things that I feel like that are in time, and it's visions and dreams. And so I'm excited that we're living those times. And I appreciate you sharing that with me because it just gives some validity that our Creator has always been a part of our lives. If we just find these little tidbits of information in our lives that we sometimes put aside and just think it was coincidence. I literally believe nothing is a coincidence ever.
Well, that's a wonderful way for us to wrap up. So if you had one parting word of wisdom to share with the audience, what would that be?
Believe. If you will just believe. Just believe.
Beautiful. So Dr. Joy, if people are interested in reading more about all of these wonderful topics that you've spent all these years researching, what's the best way that they can find your books and be able to reach out to you if they feel called to?
You can go to my website, and it's www.drjoye.com. All of my books, all the links to my books are there. And then if you have a question to ask me, there's a form there that you can fill out. And I have a show that I do every Monday night at the end of the month from 8 to 10 Eastern p.m. And I answer a lot of the questions that I get ask from those submission forms. And then if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, you can just plug me in. It's Joye. That's Joy with an E. And the last name is Pugh. It's spelled P as in Paul, UGH. And you can connect with me there and become one of my Facebook friends. And then you can find out all the radio shows that I do and podcasts that I do and things of that nature. I always post those on that Facebook page. And if you miss the show, you can listen to the next day to it recorded or whatever. And that's a good way to keep up with me. And if you've got questions, then always message me if you're a Facebook friend as well. So I encourage people to do both, to go to my website and look at it, and then to also friend me as a Facebook friend.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Joy. I'm glad we were able to connect. I know that I had to reschedule there, and I appreciate you being so flexible. And I look forward to connecting with you on Facebook and hopefully helping you bring your words and your wisdom to other like-minded individuals that maybe use a little belief in their life.
Well, listen, I thank you, and I look forward to being a Facebook friend with you and anyone else that's interested in keeping us with our eyes looking up and knowing that our redemption draweth near, and that there's good things for all of us to have here on this earth while we're living here on this earth.
All right. Amen, Dr. Joy. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much again for coming on our show.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.